You might think obesity is just about being overweight, but what if I tell you that you could have a normal weight and still be clinically obese, or have a high BMI and be perfectly healthy? Arnold Schwarzenegger weighed about 110 kilograms at his peak, giving him a BMI of 31. So technically, he was obese, yet he was one of the fittest men on earth at the time. Clearly, numbers on the scale don't tell you the whole story. In this video, I will show you how we as doctors assess obesity, not just by the scale, but by measuring how much fat you have, where it is concentrated, and what it is doing to your organs, your daily life, and what it is telling you about your future health. In our clinics, we usually start with calculating what we call the body mass index, or BMI. This is the most common screening tool for obesity. To calculate your BMI is very simple. So you check your weight in kilogram, and then you divide it by your height in meters squared. Say for instance, if you weigh 90 kilograms and you are 1.75 meters tall, then that will give you a BMI of about 29.4. Once you establish what your BMI is, then you run it according to standard cutoff points to see where you are in the scale of obesity. So if your BMI is between 18.5 and 25, that's considered healthy. If your BMI between 25 and 30, then that's considered overweight. And if it is above 30, then that's considered obesity. But there is a problem. BMI doesn't tell you the whole story because, again, it only tells you how heavy you are on the scale. It doesn't tell you what your weight is made of. Is it fat? Is it muscle? Or is it bone? In Arnold's case, his BMI was 31, yet he was built like a tank, a lot of muscle. So while the BMI is a very good starting screening tool, it's not enough, especially if you have very big bulk of muscles or if you are very fit. So now we need to go deeper then and try to find other tools that will tell us about obesity. Where the fat is deposited, is it the kind of fat that's dangerous or not? So in medicine, we divide the types or the shapes of obesity into two phenotypes, two looks. The first one we call it android or apple-shaped obesity. That is when your fat is mainly surrounding your central waist or around your belly. Now the gynoid type or pear-shaped obesity, this is where the fat is mainly around the hips and around your thighs. So you're asking me, why do I need to know about this? Well, I'll tell you what. Because central obesity, or the fat that is surrounding your internal organs in the tummy, is more dangerous. Evidence suggests that it is more metabolically active and it is more contributing to diseases stemming from obesity than the fat that's sitting under your skin, in your legs or in your thighs or in your hips. Two other tools that we're going to talk about today to measure where your fat is deposited. You only need a tape measure for them. The first one, we call it the waist circumference, and we use it again in medicine to work out where your fat is deposited. It's like a standard waist measure. You just find a point between your hips and the lower part of your ribs on the side, and then halfway between them, and then you check your waist. If your waist is more than 102 centimeters in men, which is equal to about 40 inches, and 88 centimeters in women, which is equal to about 35 inches, then you are considered high risk with central obesity. The other tool that we use is what we call the waist to height ratio. So now you know your height, now you know your waist measure, so what you need is to divide the waist circumference by your height. If you have a ratio of 50% or more, then that's considered risky, but certainly if you go above 60%, that is very high risk. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about a little bit more sophisticated tools. You might have seen them in the gym, what we call the body composition scales. These are scales that use something called bioelectrical impedance analysis. So they kind of run a very mild electric signal inside your body, and based on resistance, they could estimate your fat percentage, the mass of the muscle, your water levels. They are not perfect because, hydration and food intake could influence the levels and the figures you have, but they're certainly very helpful for you to track the changes over time. If you know that your fat percentage is say 18%, 20%, and you keep doing these recordings under the same circumstances, hydration wise and food intake wise, then you can track and see how your fat percentage is doing over time. Check your weight, check your BMI, know where you are in that kind of rough idea of obesity scale, but also track your fat percentage, check your waist circumference, check your waist to height measurements, and then use all these different tools and track your measurements on them as you are working your way through tackling any obesity that you have, because you need to track these numbers to know whether you're getting better or not getting better. And remember, stuff that you don't track, you don't improve on. So that's why tracking is very important. Now that you know whether you have excess fat, here is the next and most important question. Is that fat causing damage? That's the real test for clinical obesity. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. I will walk you through how we in medicine determine when obesity becomes a disease, when fat starts damaging your organs, disrupting your sleep and affecting your daily life. Because if that's happening, then this is not just something about how you look or your body shape anymore. It's a medical condition, and that's when you need a structured care. So stay tuned and hit subscribe if you want to learn more about what your fat might be doing to your future health.